The patio lights flickered once, then steadied. Someone laughed too loud. Plates clinked. I was reaching for my glass when my brother leaned back in his chair, smirk already loaded, and said, "Let's be honest. Some people in this family wear the name. Others just borrow it." The table went quiet. Not shocked quiet, comfortable quiet. The kind that means everyone had already agreed. That was the first snap. Soft, internal, almost polite. If you've ever had family treat you like you're invisible in the room that raised you, hit like. Subscribe if you're still standing after it. I tell these stories because silence protects the wrong people, and I'm done helping it. My name is Lena Morrison. I'm the older one, the one who learned early that effort doesn't equal approval. That night wasn't special. It just made things loud. Cole sat across from me, elbow-wide shoulders, relaxed already playing host in a house that wasn't his. My mother smiled at him the way she always did, proud, relieved, like she'd placed her bets correctly years ago, and the numbers were finally coming in. My father nodded once, slow satisfied, as if Cole had just said something brave instead of cruel. I waited for someone to correct him. No one did. The dishwasher hummed behind us through the open kitchen door, a steady mechanical sound. It felt louder than my heartbeat. Cole lifted his beer and glanced around the table. "Relax. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking." My cousin looked down at her napkin. My aunt cleared her throat. Someone chuckled weak and quick, like they were stepping over broken glass and hoping no one noticed. I felt my fingers tighten around the stem of the glass. The pressure left a small white ache in my hand. "Borrow it?" I asked. My voice came out even. That surprised me. Cole shrugged. "You know, you live your life. We live the legacy." My mother laughed. Actually laughed. "Cole, stop poking your sister." But she didn't tell him he was wrong. That was the second snap, louder. This wasn't new. It just finally had witnesses. Growing up, there were two versions of success in our house. Cole's and everyone else's. Mine didn't qualify. Straight A's were expected. Scholarships were nice but temporary. Working nights through college was dramatic. Cole switching majors 3 times was finding himself. When I graduated, my mother hugged me quickly and asked when I planned to come back and help the family business. When Cole dropped out for a semester, my father said pressure kills creativity. I learned to stop explaining. Explanations were treated like excuses. Silence was safer. At dinner that night, Cole leaned forward, enjoying the pause he'd created. "I just think it matters who represents us. Image matters." "Image," I repeated. "Yeah." He smiled without warmth. "Some people don't fit." My phone buzzed against my thigh. A calendar reminder for a meeting I'd led that morning, 7 figures approved signatures, clean, no drama. I silenced it without looking. The smell of rosemary chicken sat heavy in the air. My mother reached for the serving spoon, then stopped like she was waiting for me to react properly. I didn't. "Lena's sensitive," she said instead to the table. "You know how she is." There it was. The translation. Hurt equals weakness. Silence equals maturity. If I objected, I'd be the problem. "That's not what I meant," Cole said, not even pretending. "I'm just saying the name means something. Grandma built it from nothing. It deserves continuity." He said the word like it already belonged to him. My father finally looked at me. "Your brother's just passionate." I watched his mouth form the words, watched how easy it was for him. That was the third snap, sharp, final. I pushed my chair back slightly. The legs scraped the stone, too loud. My mother flinched. "I'm going to get some air," I said. "No need to be dramatic," she replied instantly. "Reflex, like muscle memory." I stepped away anyway. Out on the edge of the patio, the lights cast long shadows across the lawn. Somewhere inside the dishwasher clicked as it shifted cycles. I focused on that sound. Mechanical. Reliable. It finished what it started. Rachel found me there. She didn't ask if I was okay. She just handed me a napkin and said, "He's gotten worse." I noticed. She exhaled through her nose. "He thinks this weekend is his." I looked back through the glass doors. Cole was mid-story now, hands moving, confidence swelling with every nod he got in return. My parents leaned toward him like gravity had shifted. "Why?" I asked. Rachel hesitated. Because Grandma's been seeing her attorney. A lot. That landed. Not a snap. A wait. How much is a lot? Enough to make him practice speeches. I almost laughed. It came out dry and short. Of course he is. Rachel watched me carefully. You should be ready. For what? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. When we went back inside, my mother intercepted me before I reached my seat. She lowered her voice, tight smile in place. Try not to antagonize your brother tonight, she said. This isn't about you. I met her eyes. It never is. Her smile faltered for half a second. Then she straightened. You always do this. Do what make everything uncomfortable. The dishwasher clicked off. Silence filled the space it left. Lena, she said sharper, now you should be grateful you're even included. That was it. That was the line. Not shouted, not dramatic, clean, surgical, included. I nodded once. Not agreement, acceptance. The kind you feel when something finally breaks the right way. Behind her, Cole laughed again, confident, certain, untouchable. I took my seat, lifted my glass. The lights above us buzzed softly, steady, and unforgiving. And I realized with absolute clarity that this family didn't fear losing me. They feared me staying quiet. By Monday morning, the story had already been edited. Not by me, by them. In the family group chat, my brother's comment from the patio didn't exist. What existed were photos, smiles, clinking glasses. My mother posted one of Cole leaning toward Grandma, arm draped just right, captioned, "So proud of the next generation stepping up." A crown emoji followed. Subtle. Nothing is ever subtle when it's intentional. I didn't react. No like, no comment. Within minutes, my phone buzzed anyway. Aren't you going to say something nice? That was my aunt. Not, are you okay? Not, that was rough. Nice, performative, manageable. I put the phone face down and opened my laptop. Numbers don't care who your parents love more. Numbers tell the truth whether you want them to or not. At noon, Cole posted again. This time, a photo from the office, our family's office, standing in front of the glass wall, etched with Morrison Holdings in brushed steel. He was holding a coffee he didn't pay for wearing a suit my father had bought him years ago. The caption read, "Big things coming. Legacy doesn't wait." I stared at the screen longer than I meant to. Legacy. That word again. Heavy. Claimed. By Tuesday, the whispers started reaching me sideways. A former classmate messaged asking if congratulations were in order. A second cousin I barely knew sent a thumbs-up emoji with, "Heard the news, no details, no source, just assumption." That's how power moves when it thinks it's inevitable. Quiet first, confident. Wednesday night. Rachel called. She didn't waste time. "He's telling people Grandma's stepping back." I leaned against my kitchen counter. The lights were off. Only the city glow bled in through the window. "Stepping back, how control," she said. "He says she's tired. Says she wants continuity." I closed my eyes. I could hear the word in his voice. Continuity. The excuse people use when they don't want to say replacement. Who's he telling everyone who will listen? A pause. And some who didn't ask. That night I dreamed of long tables and empty chairs. I woke up before the ending. The following weekend my parents hosted a dinner. No occasion. Those are always the most dangerous ones. I arrived on time. That was my first mistake. Cole was already there, shoes kicked off feet on the coffee table like he'd been born on it. He didn't look up when I walked in. "Hey," I said. "Hey," he replied, distracted, scrolling. "You're early." My mother emerged from the kitchen, drying her hands on a towel. "Good. You can help set the table." Cole didn't move. At dinner, they talked around me, not over me. Around, like I was furniture, neutral, decorative. My father cleared his throat. "We've been thinking," he began. "Here it comes." "With the company growing the way it is," my mother added, "it's important to start thinking about transitions." Transitions. The polite cousin of replacements. Cole leaned back, laced his fingers behind his head. "It's smart. Markets like stability." I took a sip of water. "What kind of transition?" They exchanged a glance. Old choreography. Practiced. Well, my father said your grandmother won't be around forever. There it was. The unsayable finally said. And when that time comes, my mother continued, it's important that leadership reflects the family. I waited. Cole smiled. I've already been easing into things. I looked at him then. Really looked. At the confidence, the certainty, the way no one questioned the assumption. And you, my mother asked me suddenly, you seem very busy with your own life. Busy. Another translation. Distracted. Optional. I am, I said. It's going well. That's good, she replied, quickly relieved. Then this won't feel like a loss. Loss. I felt something cold settle just below my ribs. Rachel texted me under the table. They've decided already. I typed back with one hand, decided what 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then who matters. Friday afternoon, I stopped by Grandma's house. She was in the sunroom sorting mail with slow precision, glasses low on her nose, a neat stack on her right, a shredder humming softly on her left. You're early, she said without looking up. I had time, I replied. She nodded. Slid another envelope. The blade made a clean sound, controlled. They're excited, she said after a moment. I said nothing. Excitement can be useful, she continued. It makes people careless. I sat across from her, watched her hands. Strong, still. They think this weekend is about them, she said. Is it? I asked. She finally looked up. Her eyes were sharp, clear, not tired. No, she said simply. When I left, my phone buzzed again. Cole, you good big days ahead. Don't overthink it. I stared at the message. The casual ownership. The assumption that I'd step aside politely. I typed nothing back. That night I stood in my apartment with the lights off, city humming below. I thought about all the times I'd been told to wait my turn. Be patient, be grateful, be quiet. I thought about how certainty looks a lot like arrogance when it's unearned. Somewhere across town my brother was probably practicing a speech, and somewhere deeper something else was being prepared. The throne didn't look like a throne yet, but everyone was already bowing. The driveway was already full when I arrived. Cars lined both sides of the street, polished, expensive, intentional. I parked 3 houses down and walked the rest of the way, heels clicking too loud on the pavement. The sound followed me like a countdown. The house was glowing, every window lit, music spilling out in measured waves. Someone had chosen a playlist that sounded important without being interesting. Cole was at the front door, sleeves rolled, drink in hand, greeting people like he owned the deed. His laugh carried farther than it needed to. When he saw me, it paused. Just a fraction. Then it reset. Hey, he said, pulling me into a quick, one-armed hug that felt more like a check mark. You made it, traffic, I replied. He nodded like that explained everything and turned immediately to the couple behind me. You guys made great time. Come in, come in. Inside, the air smelled like citrus cleaner and catered food. My mother had outdone herself, linen napkins folded just right, candles placed with purpose. This wasn't a dinner. It was a presentation. Put your coat in the back, she said, already moving past me. And could you help with the ice? No hello? No hug. The ice bin was already full. I filled it anyway. Voices layered over each other in the living room. Laughter rose and fell. Glasses clinked. Every sound felt amplified like the house itself was listening. Grandma sat near the window, straight-backed in her chair, hands folded in her lap. People rotated past her in an orderly line, each one bending down, offering compliments, thanks, admiration. She accepted them all with a nod, a smile that didn't give much away. When I reached her, she squeezed my hand once. Firm, grounding. You look tired, she said quietly. I'm fine. She studied my face for a second longer, then let go. Stay near. I nodded. Cole appeared minutes later with 2 drinks. He handed one to Grandma, one to himself. To you, he said loudly, 80 years and still running the show. Applause rippled through the room. My mother beamed. My father raised his glass high. Grandma smiled, thin, controlled. Dinner was announced like a ceremony. People found their seats by name cards printed in careful script. Mine was at the end of the table between a cousin I barely knew and an empty chair that stayed empty the entire night. Across from me, Cole sat closer to Grandma than anyone else, close enough to be in every photo. Conversation started light. Travel, markets, a renovation someone was pretending they oversaw. So Lena, my aunt, said, turning toward me, "Are you still doing numbers?" I opened my mouth. "Speaking of numbers," Cole cut in, not even glancing my way. "Wait until you hear about the acquisition we're finalizing." Every head turned. I closed my mouth. He talked fast, confident, vague. Big words, no details. My father nodded along, adding commentary like punctuation. My mother laughed at the right moments, eyes flicking around the table to make sure everyone noticed. I picked at my food. The fork felt heavy. Later, someone asked about Denver. I answered one sentence before Cole leaned forward again. "We're looking at expansion there, actually. Makes sense to have boots on the ground." Boots? I looked down at my shoes, plain, scuffed. The interruptions became a pattern. Clean, precise. Every time I spoke, he filled the space before my words could land. It wasn't aggressive. That would have been easier. It was surgical. My father raised his glass. "To the future." "To the future," Cole echoed. Everyone drank. I didn't. Dessert arrived with sparklers and applause. Grandma's favorite, coconut cake, tall and white, flickering like it was trying to stay alive. Phones came out. Pictures were taken. Cole positioned himself just right, arm behind Grandma's chair, smile wide. "Say legacy," someone joked. Cole laughed. Already living it. Something twisted in my chest. Not sharp. Heavy. Like pressure building with nowhere to go. I stood and stepped away from the table, moving toward the darker corner near the back patio. The air outside was cooler. Quieter. The pool reflected the lights in broken lines. Rachel joined me without asking. "He hasn't stopped talking," she said. "I know. He thinks this is his moment." I stared at the water. "It is." She glanced back inside. Cole had taken the microphone, now tapping it twice. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice smooth, practiced. "I just want to say how grateful I am to be part of a family that values strength, vision, and commitment." My mother wiped at her eyes. My father smiled like he was watching a graduation. Cole continued, "And Grandma, thank you for trusting the next generation." Applause thundered. Then he turned, slowly, deliberately, his eyes locked on mine across the room. "Because the truth is," he said, voice dropping just enough to sound serious, "not everyone is built to carry a name like ours." The room stilled, not shocked, expectant. "Some people," he continued, "are just along for the ride." A few laughs, nervous, encouraging. "This family," he finished, "deserves better than borrowed pride." Silence fell like a held breath. My mother nodded once, small, approving. My father's mouth curved into that familiar half-smile. I felt the moment press in on me from all sides. The lights, the eyes, the weight of years compressed into one sentence. I didn't speak. I didn't move. I didn't give him the reaction he wanted. Instead, I watched Grandma. She placed her fork down on the plate. Slow, intentional. The porcelain made a soft, final sound. She stood. No one else moved. The sparklers on the cake fizzled out one by one. And in that silence, I understood something with perfect clarity. This party had never been for me, but it wasn't for him either. Grandma didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She stood there for a full second longer than was comfortable, letting the silence stretch until it stopped being awkward and started being frightening. The lights above us hummed. Somewhere in the house, a phone camera kept recording forgotten in someone's hand. Cole's smile stayed in place. Too long, like he was waiting for applause that missed its cue. "Sit down," my mother whispered to Grandma, already half rising from her chair. "You don't need to." "I do," Grandma said. "One word, clean cut." She took a step forward. "No cane, no help. 82 years old and steadier than anyone else in the room." Cole laughed softly. "Grandma, come on. I was just making a point." "You made it," she replied. Calm, flat. "Now I'll make mine." The room shifted. People leaned back. Chairs creaked. Someone's glass trembled against the table. Grandma turned slightly enough to face everyone. Her gaze moved slowly, deliberately, like she was counting heads, like she was memorizing who chose to look away. "I built Morrison Holdings with blistered hands and unpaid bills," she said. "Not speeches, not assumptions." Cole opened his mouth. She lifted one finger. He closed it. "For 40 years," she continued, "I've watched who learned, who worked, and who waited to be handed things they never earned." My father stiffened. My mother's hands twisted together in her lap. "This week," Grandma said, "I finalized what should have been done years ago." The word finalized landed hard. Permanent. Cole shifted his weight. "We talked about this," he said quickly. "You told me, I listened," she cut in. "And then I chose. That was it." The sentence split the room in two. She reached into the pocket of her cardigan and pulled out a slim folder. Not dramatic. No flourish. Just paper. Real. Heavy with consequence. Effective close of business. Yesterday, she said 70% controlling interest of Morrison Holdings has been transferred. Cole exhaled sharply, already smiling again. My mother let out a breath she'd been holding. "To Lena." The smile died. It didn't slide off his face. It cracked, like something dropped too fast. What Cole said too loud. My mother stood this time. "Mother, that's not funny. It's not a joke," Grandma replied. "The filings are complete. The board was notified this morning." My father's chair scraped back. "You can't do this. I already did." The room erupted. Not shouting. Worse. Whispers. Gasps. A sharp inhale from the far end of the table. Someone dropped their fork. Cole laughed again, but it came out wrong. Thin. Strangled. "Okay. Very funny. You made your point." Grandma didn't look at him. In addition, she said Cole Morrison retains a 3% non-voting stake. 3. Non-voting. The words hit him like a slap. What he snapped. "That's no. That's not Elaine and Thomas Morrison." Grandma continued, turning her head slightly toward my parents. "Are removed from the board, effective immediately." My mother made a sound I'd never heard before. Sharp. Broken. "You're punishing us," she said. "Because of one stupid comment," no, Grandma said. "Because of 30 years of them." My father stepped forward, face flushing red. "This will destroy the company. It will save it," Grandma replied, "from entitlement." Cole moved then, took a step toward her, hands out like he could physically stop the words from landing. "Grandma," he said, voice cracking. "Now, I didn't mean it like that. I was just, you meant every word she said. You've meant them your whole life." She turned then, finally, looked at me. For the first time that night, the room wasn't watching Cole. It was watching me. Lena, Grandma said, her voice softening but not weakening. "Your access codes are active. The master keys are in the safe. The board expects you Monday at 9. The air left my lungs all at once. I nodded. That was all I could do. Nod and stay standing. Cole looked at me like he'd never seen me before. "You did this," he said. I didn't answer. My mother collapsed back into her chair, hands shaking. "You're tearing this family apart," she cried, looking at me like I'd pulled the trigger myself. Grandma answered for me. "No, I'm correcting it." My father stared at the table, at the white linen now stained with spilled wine. His mouth opened, closed. Nothing came out. Phones were everywhere now, screens glowing, capturing, freezing moments that would never be undone. Cole shook his head, pacing. "This is insane. I gave everything to this family. You took Grandma said, and called it giving." She sat back down, just like that. The storm finished. No one moved. The cake sat untouched. The candles had burned down to blackened stubs. I felt something settle in my chest. Not triumph, not joy. Relief. 6 months later, the building felt different. The Morrison Holdings lobby was quieter without Cole's voice echoing off the glass. His office was empty by Wednesday. By Friday, his name was gone from the website. The reason given was restructuring. The real reason didn't need explaining. He tried to stay, tried to argue, tried to call in favors that no longer answered. 3 weeks. That's how long it took for inevitability to turn into reality. My parents lasted longer. Lawyers, emails, threats wrapped in concern. None of it mattered. The documents were clean, the signatures real. The tax bill hit them like a delayed explosion. Numbers they'd never prepared for, assets they'd assumed were untouchable. They called me then. I didn't answer. Grandma moved into my guest room the following month, brought her books, her pearls, her quiet. We drank coffee every morning, talked about numbers, about decisions, about how silence can be a weapon or a shield depending on who's holding it. Cole texted once. From a number I didn't recognize. I was drunk. I didn't mean it. We're family. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied, "You meant it the first time you thought it." And I blocked him. Some people think power looks loud, like speeches, like applause. They're wrong. Power looks like a woman who waited, watched, and chose the right moment to speak. And when she finally did, everything changed. The silence afterward wasn't dramatic. It didn't echo. It didn't beg to be filled. It just existed. 6 months passed without a ceremony. No victory lap, no announcement, just time doing what time does when people stop fighting it. My mornings changed first. No more waking up with that tight pressure behind my ribs. No more rehearsing conversations that would never happen. The apartment felt larger, like it had been holding its breath with me, and finally let go. Grandma moved slowly, deliberately into the spare room. 1 suitcase, 2 boxes of books. Her pearls wrapped in a soft cloth she'd owned longer than I'd been alive. She slept better than she had in years. We drank coffee on the balcony every morning. No rush, no agenda. She liked it black. I liked it strong. We talked about cap rates, market cycles, and occasionally about nothing at all. Silence between us wasn't heavy. It was earned. The company settled into its new shape quickly. Meetings became shorter, decisions cleaner. People stopped posturing and started working. When I walked into a room, no one wondered why I was there. That was new. Cole disappeared in stages. First his office, then his name, then his certainty. He tried to explain himself to people who no longer needed explanations, tried to charm investors who now checked signatures, tried to act like none of it mattered. It did. 3 weeks in, the calls stopped. By the end of the month, he was gone entirely. Not fired, erased. The kind of removal that doesn't need a press release. I heard he found another job, somewhere smaller, somewhere louder, somewhere he could talk without being interrupted by reality. My parents held on longer. They wrote emails filled with words like family and legacy and forgiveness. None of them included the word accountability. They sent photos of the house, the garden, the dining table where everything had unraveled, as if nostalgia could be a bargaining chip. I archived them all. The tax bill hit in waves. Numbers they'd never bothered to understand now demanded attention. Assets sold quietly. The house listed without a party. The past downsized. My mother left voicemails that swung between anger and grief. "You've changed," she said in one. "You're destroying everything," she said in another. She never asked how I was. The last message came on a Tuesday afternoon. Cole again. New number. "I have nothing left. Please call me." I stared at the screen while the board meeting continued around me. Voices, charts, decisions being made without drama. I typed back 1 sentence. "You lost me long before you lost the rest." Then I blocked him. It didn't feel cruel, it felt accurate. People think cutting off family requires anger. It doesn't. Anger is loud, messy, temporary. This was quieter. This was choosing not to bleed anymore. On Sundays, Rachel came over. We cooked simple meals, nothing fancy, no performance. She stopped flinching mid-sentence, waiting to be interrupted. I stopped apologizing for taking up space. Grandma beat me at cards every time. She laughed more now. Real laughter. Not the polite kind. One evening, as the city lights blinked on below us, she said, "They mistook proximity for permission." I nodded. I did too. For a long time. She looked at me then. Really looked. "You stayed longer than most would have. I thought that was loyalty." She shook her head. "It was hope. Hope is expensive when it's misplaced." I stopped carrying the Morrison name like a burden. I carried it like a tool, something useful, something earned. There were no more family dinners, no surprise invitations, no performances masquerading as love. Just space. And in that space, something else grew. calm. I slept through the night, ate without knots in my stomach, walked into rooms without shrinking. When people asked about my family, I answered honestly and briefly. They're not part of my life. No explanation followed. It wasn't necessary. Some nights I stood on the balcony alone and listened to the city breathe. Cars, sirens, laughter drifting up from the street. Life happening without permission. I thought about the girl I'd been, the one who waited her turn, who believed silence was safety, who thought endurance was the same as strength. I wished I could tell her this. You don't win by staying. You win by choosing yourself early. The world didn't collapse when I walked away. It clarified. Blood didn't get thicker, respect did. And in losing the family that never saw me, I found something quieter, stronger. My own life, unborrowed, uninterrupted. Finally, mine.